Today's recipe calls for turkey sausage. We're going to ditch the old boring chicken breast and use some of this stuff for our meal prep just to mix things up. It's going to be very easy and super tasty. So with that said, let's get started.
The first thing we need to do to make this spicy and also flavor-packed meal prep is make some grains. Those grains are also known as 1 cup or 213 grams of a long grain Thai jasmine rice. Snag a medium-sized holding device, dump the rice into the holder. After the grains have been placed in the bowl, add some water to the holding apparatus. Should be enough water to fully submerge the rice in the liquid. Give the grains a shakedown for a few minutes. The goal is to wash off as much excess rice starch as possible. After a few minutes, you'll notice the water has become super cloudy and is milky looking. Pour off all the cloudy water. Do your best not to lose any rice. Once you've managed not to lose any, repeat the same process with fresh water. You'll wash the rice a total of 2 times. This will ensure we get as much of that starch off as possible. This step will help give us the perfect rice, meaning it will be fluffy and tender in texture. When it has become squeaky clean, grab a fine mesh strainer and drain the rice. Drain all or as much of the water off as possible. We do not want to add any of that starchy water to our pot when we cook. It could throw off the entire cooking process. I find it helps if you lightly shake and kind of gently toss the rice in the strainer. This will help get rid of more water. Grab a pot that has a nice thick bottom and will also be perfect in size. We want something that will allow the rice to double in size once it has been cooked. Next, measure out 1 1/4 cups or 300 mils of cold water. You may have to get eye level with the measuring cup to achieve the proper amount of liquid. Grab the H2O and uncooked grains, place the pot over a heating source, add the water to the holding device. Then give it a little shake to ensure all of the rice is in one even layer and is completely submerged. Crank the heat up to high. We'll leave it on this ripping high heat until the water hits a simmer, meaning it's barely starting to bubble. Once it has reached the light bubble stage, toss a lid atop of the pot. You want to use a lid that has a tight, snug fit to it. This will help keep the heat and steam in for that proper cook. Once you have the lid figured out, turn the heat to a really low temp. Then set a timer to cook the rice on this low temp for 15 minutes or until the rice has doubled in size, is fluffy looking, and is tender in texture. While it's cooking, don't mess with the pot. Also, leave the lid on and do not take it off. Once you hear the buzzer go off, it's time to check on the grains. It should look pillowy and light. All the liquid should have been completely cooked off as well. You can check this by grabbing a rubber spat and getting it between the rice and the pan. If the bottom is dry, you know it's done. When it's done, take it off the heat source with the lid still attached to it. We want to allow the rice to steam and rest for 10 to 15 minutes before we mess with it. After the resting period is over, gently fluff the rice to break it up from the large hunk of goods it is. Following that, grab a half sheet tray so we can toss all of the rice onto it. Make it into one nice even layer. Set it aside to allow it to completely cool down. Now we can move on to the veggie portion of the meal prep. Before we do that, we first need to preheat the oven box. Set the temp to 400 Fahrenheit or 204 Celsius. Collect a half tray. Huck that empty thingy into the preheating oven. We want the tray to become hot while we prep the veg. I'll explain this little trick later. Anyways, the healthy stuff we'll be using is 4 cups or 340 grams worth of broccoli. I took the easy route and bought a bag of broccoli florets instead of broccoli crowns. This will make it much easier and faster to make our meal prep. I suggest going through the florets and cutting the larger pieces in half or even thirds, or into any size you prefer for your eating experience. Also, cut off any excess of the stems. Now that the brock is cleaned up and things are in a bowl, we need to add some liquid fat. Pour in 2 teaspoons of a neutral tasting oil that has a high smoke point. Give things a mixer to coat all the veg in the oil. Add any of your favorite flavor additives to the bowl. I went with 1 teaspoon granulated onion and 1 teaspoon granulated garlic. Make it hail a few fat pinches of coarse ground kosher salt as well. Give it another flip and flop to spread the seasonings around. Taste test the broccoli and adjust the flavor profile as needed. Once the oven has reached the set temp and the tray is hot, oh, and also, when you're done prepping your broccoli, pull the hot half tray out of the oven. Dump the veggies onto the hunk of aluminum. Things should go sizzle sizzle. Ensure everything is spread out into one even layer for the best roast. Scrape the bowl clean to get all of the spices and the salt out and onto the tray of food. Using some type of baking mitt, snag the hot tray. Gently toss the goods into the hot oven on the middle rack for the best results. Set a timer to roast the first side for 6 minutes. After the buzzer rings, give things a stir around. This way we can achieve an even roast on all sides, giving us good color on everything and also to accomplish the best cook. Once you've done that, toss the tray back into the heat. Set another timer to roast this side for 6 minutes as well, for a total of 12 minutes, or until things become a nice golden brown color and the veg has become al dente in texture. So the reason why we put the empty tray into the oven while it was preheating is because using a piping hot tray will help jumpstart the cooking process. It'll sear the broccoli, giving us that sweet golden color. This will also speed up the roasting process, which will help lock in that bright green color as well, because it won't be in the oven forever and a day. When the last buzzer rings, pull the brock out of the heat. We need to check the doneness. Poke it with a miniature pitchfork. If the fork pierces the broccoli easily, then you know it's done. If it takes some effort to do this, toss it back into the oven for a couple more minutes. Set the veggies aside to allow things to cool down so we can move on to the protein portion of the meal. Collect 1 link of pre-cooked turkey, Polska, kielbasa, or any type of your favorite link of sausage. We'll be using 13 ounces or 368 grams of this meat. Cut the link in half, then cut that half in half right down the middle, splitting it into 2 long sections. You'll end up with 4 pieces of sausage. Now we need to slice the meat into little half moon pieces. Cut them into sections that are about 1/8 inch thick pieces. Repeat the same process until everything has been cut into the half moon sections. I wanted to use some spicy sausage for this meal, but the macros were not that great, so we'll be adding our own spice instead. We'll be using half a teaspoon red pepper flakes. It's not quite exactly the same, but it'll still make things really tasty. Grab a large skillet, the red pepper flakes, and the meats, and take everything over to a heating element. Crank the heat to a medium level of hotness. Allow the pan to become ripping hot. To check how hot it is, add a few drops of water to the skillet. If the water turns into little spheres and immediately evaporates, then you know it's hot and ready to go. Drop the sausage into the hot pan. Spread things out so all of the pieces are making contact with the bottom of the pan. This way we can achieve a good hard sear on all the little meat pieces. Give it a light seasoning with some coarse ground kosher salt. Allow the first side to cook for around 3 to 4 minutes or until you achieve some good color. So, I thought the sausage was going to release a little bit of fat while it was cooking, causing things to fry during the cooking process, but it didn't do that because it's so lean. I recommend giving the skillet a light spray of some cooking oil to coat the pan before you add the protein in. This will help us achieve a better end product, giving things a better sear, causing the meat to get a nice outside layer, giving them more texture. It'll also help slightly fry them as well. After the first side has a good hard sear, give the skillet of goods a stir around. Continue to cook the sausage for another 5 to 6 minutes or until all of the sides have some good color on them. Frequently stir the pan of meat until you've achieved the color we're shooting for, which is a nice golden brown color. When you've achieved that, add the red pepper flakes in. After you add them, continually stir them or the flakes will burn. Dry toast the flakes for 30 to 40 seconds or until the air becomes very fragrant, meaning it'll be all hot and spicy. Dry toasting them will intensify the spice level, causing them to release the natural oils they hold. Once things become fragrant and toasted, transfer everything over to a half tray. If your pan looks like mine, place it back onto the heat source. Turn the heat down to a low-medium level. Then add enough water to the pan that will fully cover the bottom. Be careful when you do this because things will immediately become all hot and steamy. If you didn't know, hot steam will burn and it hurts pretty bad. So keep your hand off to the side of the pan when you pour the liquid in. After the water has settled and the steam is no longer present, using a wooden spoon, scrape the bottom of the pan to get all those crusty bits unstuck. If you can't get everything scraped off, allow the pan of water to simmer for a few minutes or until you can scrape all the bits off the bottom. This is a little pro tip that will make things much easier to clean later. It'll save you a ton of time when you wash it. Anyways, collect all of the components into one area. Allow everything to completely cool down before we put them away. While things are hanging out, this is the perfect opportunity to decide what storage devices to use. I really like using these reusable vacuum sealed bags. You can also use any plastic or glass containers. Alrighty, once you have the storage devices figured out and the food has completely cooled, we can finish this meal prep. Simply divide all the components into equal portions. I find the easiest and most accurate way to do this is by using a kitchen scale for this task. If you don't own a scale, you can just eye it out. After you have things split up and in their respective holding devices, pop the lids on or vacuum seal shut the bags. Toss them in the fridge box for later, or put them in the freezer for an even later day. When you go to eat these, add some hot sauce to make the experience even spicier, or keep it at the level of spice it is. Whatever you decide to do, just enjoy.
Alright, now that our meal prep meal is done, let's give it the old taste-a-roo. So looking at it, it came out super aesthetically pleasing. We got a ton of colors going on there with the green and the white and the reddish from our sausage. The rice looks nice and fluffy. There's those little tiny speckles of red pepper flakes in our sausage, and I love spicy food, so I'm super excited about that. And our broccoli got that nice color on it as well, so there's that super deep roasted flavor that's gonna happen when we try it. So let's give it a shot. We'll try the rice. We already know it's good because we've made it a billion times already, but anyways. Our rice came out super dang good. It's light, it's airy, it's fluffy. There's a ton of individual grains because we cooked it perfectly. Overall, it's really good. It has that distinct jasmine flavor to it. And it's like the best rice ever. So let's try our broccoli next. Our broccoli came out super dang tasty. I love roasted broccoli. It's like the greatest thing to ever be invented. The garlic powder and the onion powder bring a ton of flavor to the table. The salt is also really good and brings out the natural flavors that it holds as well. They taste nice and healthy because it's a vegetable, of course. Texture-wise, they're nice and crunchy, so they're like the perfect al dente, which is very nice to counterbalance the other textures in our meal prep. Overall, it's just super good. So let's try our sausage next. Our turkey sausage came out super dang tasty. It's nice and meaty, and we got that hard sear on it, so we get a ton of caramelization and a ton of flavor from that sear. And of course, it's gonna be super good because you're gonna use your favorite sausage and you already know you're gonna like it. But that little red pepper flake that we threw on there got that nice toasted flavor to it, so it brings even more intense spiciness and just a nice toasted flavor as well. Overall, this thing combined together is just super good, and you have to make it. This meal is crazy easy to put together, takes minimal effort for maximum flavor, and you can pretty much make this any which way that you would like. Maybe add some garlic and onion to your sausage to bring even more flavor to the dish, or get rid of the roasted broccoli and do like some steamed or boiled broccoli instead. There's endless opportunities. So hopefully you enjoyed today's video. Thanks for watching. I gotta go get a workout in, and then I'm gonna eat a ton of food because I'm kind of hungry right now. So with that said, we'll see you on the next one. A little bit of spiciness and some flavor, and you're gonna use your favorite sausage. Bring a ton of flavor to the table. Have a really nice crunch. It's gonna be good. It's gonna be my sausage. So I like so spicy.